Hello and welcome back to a new Rage Gaming video. My name is Olo and today I have some exciting Blue Protocol news for you. We had that recent dev stream explaining the single day beta event, the class changes, the hints at a new 5th class coming with the launch of the game, new regions and game mechanics, all the good stuff. But today's news is directly linked to that beta event. It was explained that the original client for the first beta is now outdated and they've got a whole new one for us to download. And in that new client was a load of new information and incoming content that's been revealed thanks to a Datamine. As always, we would not be talking about this right now if it wasn't for the champions at the Blue Protocol database website who translated all this information. So again, as always, check out the database for any Blue Protocol news and info. They do really good work. And in fact, last week they posted about recruiting people to help them run the site, new translators needed. So if you are a super fan of Blue Protocol, you should definitely check them out and maybe get involved with them. Anyway, with all that said, let's get into the new information. Now, as I just said, the source of information comes from the new client and the new information contained within that. This could all be changed entirely and be unfinished because this is stuff we shouldn't really be seeing yet. It's not announced. They didn't plan for us to see this, but it does reveal details about what they're working on right now, like the guild system coming, new zones and regions, and of course, the new class information. And on that note, do we have some big class information here? You know how they hinted at a 5th class that'll be playable at launch? I thought at the time that a spear user would be great in Blue Protocol, something super mobile, maybe a bit of a longer range melee playstyle. As it turns out, we have a lot more than one class listed here. This image comes from the list of class names in the new client, and obviously that's a lot more than 4, which is the reality of the current game. On top of that though, we definitely have some very unfinished names here, but the new classes listed are Wizard, Swordslayer, Artist, Gunslinger, Splash, Engineer, Striker, Slayer, Vanguard, Sentinel, finally, Heavy Arm. We do also see the original 4 of Twin Striker, Aegis Fighter, Spellcaster, and Blast Archer, but we also saw 3 very strange and very unfinished names for classes. The short-range verification class, the long-range version of that, and then Test Image Transformer. Do they mean maybe imajinn? Maybe that's a mistranslation. So, you know, the imajinn, the creatures we fight and summon in this game. It sounds like this class could transform into different imajinn types and then play them ourselves, if that's the transformer type as listed. That'd be really cool. But what the hell is the whole short or long range verification class? I have no idea. Whatever the case, that's just a lot of names. That's a lot of information. What can we learn from that though? Obviously, there's a lot more than just one class here listed than just the promised 5th. And, you know, we're wondering which will be the 5th class out of these. Considering the fact that there's not really an order to this list, like the original 4 are listed here kind of randomly, it's definitely not set in a sort of order of release date. The database people seem to believe that because Gunslinger is labeled class number 4, that could mean that it's the next class coming to the game. And furthermore, we have a description of each class, information that lines up with the current 4, right? But more details than others about the Gunslinger. So it seems likely that's the one they're working on first and could be the next class in Blue Protocol. I imagine that as a dual wielding pistol type, which would be pretty cool. And that would leave us with 3 ranged and 2 melee classes at launch, which means we're definitely missing with melee a big weapon user. The Twin Striker uses 2 one-handed axes, right? But what about a 1 great axe user, which could say be the Striker class? Or the Swordslayer, on the other hand, could be a dual sword user, and then the Slayer could be a great sword user, which would miss that filling role too. And what's interesting here to me as well is there's a wizard listed here, even though we have a spellcaster type. So why is a wizard listed here? Could it be a different magic type spellcaster? Or could it be that we're thinking wrong here, and this isn't a list of major classes planned, but a list of subclasses? A spellcaster could be the original idea, right? But maybe you choose between a wizard or a spellcaster. Or maybe you choose between a striker or a twin striker or a blast archer or a gunslinger. Maybe. Lastly though, the classes that are super out there are obviously the Artist, Engineer, Heavy Arm, and the Test Imajinn, not imajinn, Transformer. I love the idea of transforming into an imajinn, if that's what it meant. Maybe it was a mistranslation. It is a really cool summon system, but getting to play as the imajinn would be sick. Meanwhile, heavy arm might be a fist fighting type, and an engineer could be someone who uses bombs and traps. But what about the artist? What on earth is that? How will that work? Maybe it's a sort of poor translation of a bard? Or maybe this dude is really going to fight people with like a paintbrush or something. Let me know what you think about these classes though. It's fun to speculate and I'd like some different perspective on that. But I definitely do think it's likely that Gunslinger is maybe the 5th possible class in the end. Otherwise though, we obviously have more to talk about here, like the guild system, which is obviously coming to the game. It was too early in the game during a first beta to worry about something like guilds. Naturally though, we're going to have this in game at some point, and now we see they're working on that system. These images show interactions with a guild NPC and the different options you might have to swap between with them. It seems extremely likely that we'll have guild testing in the next major proper beta test after this small one-day one that's happening, so big new systems will be coming with all that for sure. Overall though, I think we get the gist on this one. It's a guild. Next though, the new zones, of which we saw a massive list of current and new zone concepts they're working on. Originally, we played in the grassy hills and mountains, right? And we know they're working on that desert or rocky region thanks to the dev stream. But what else is here? So we see the Zalamzar Oasis town that was shown in the dev stream, and the old zones listed multiple times as well. Apparently, they do show them multiple times because that's just how they list the zones, right? One region could be the Montanor Valley, and then you have the different zones inside that region, like west or east. But from this list, we have confirmation of a desert region that probably goes around that town of the Oasis, a plateau region, the valley I just mentioned, and these seem to be confirmed and being worked on, right? But the list also adds to that with planned areas or maybe instances. An ice world, a lava region, a new city, underground regions, swamps. A lot more is listed here if you want to look at that. Personally, I think the art style of Blue Protocol is incredible, and the zones were lovely to play in, but they were all very one note, you know, green and grassy. I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go with next, with what areas they can create. They obviously have a lot planned already. Sadly though, that is everything from this Datamine, but it did give us a lot to think about, right? Mainly those classes and what the 5th class could be. What do you think? Gunslinger for sure, right? I like the idea that many of these are just subclasses that add to the current 4 and give us more options. Though obviously we know they plan to add a lot more than 4 or 5 of the original classes. Anyway, hopefully we see some big weapon users come to the game soon and more Blue Protocol news with that. Until then though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and I'll see you next time.